Okay, welcome back guys. So today we are continuing where we left off last time. Remember last time we're doing FIFO method on the previous paper. Actually it's still the same paper, on the previous video we're doing FIFO method, and we did it here like the question said. Calculate the following, or the value of closing stock for the two stock items. Then we did calculated for cricket pads using FIFO method. Then we got this amount here. Then now the second question says calculate the value of closing stock for the two stock items. The second stock item is called the cricket balls. Cricket balls using the weighted average method. So we're going to be using the weighted average method to calculate value of closing stock for cricket balls. Pretty much simple. So this is our question here. We've already done this one for FIFO. Now we're doing cricket balls using the weighted average method. So let's get into it, guys. Then after that, I will do another video to calculate the following: cost of sales, gross profit, markup percentage, and stock holding period. But for now, let's focus this video on the weighted average method for 8 marks. That's it for this video, guys. So let's get started. This is our answer book and this is our question paper. So the information is basically on the other side of the page. So we have cricket balls here, we have stock balances, stock counts for the financial period. Then we have cricket pads here and we have cricket balls here. So now we're going to be focusing on cricket balls, because on cricket pads we did it and we used FIFO. Now we're going to be on cricket balls. So they did give us the information. They also gave us information number B, which is cricket balls period on purchases. Then they gave us information number C, which is purchases during the year. Sorry for that minor disturbance. I had to pause the video. So let's continue. So we're given our information here for cricket balls. We have the purchases for cricket balls and we have the sales for cricket balls. All this information is yours to use. Don't be afraid. All this information is yours. So read it. And be careful. Be careful when they say calculate for cricket balls using weighted. Don't come and use information for cricket pads. This is cricket pads and this is cricket balls. So for cricket balls, we are going to be focusing on this side of our information and then using the weighted average method. Okay, so we're going to be using this paper here. This paper here to answer the questions, much like a chalkboard. Okay, just this piece of paper here before we transfer these things into our answer book. Okay, let's get started. So guys, remember they are saying we're using weighted average method for cricket balls. So we're going to be using the weighted average method. A very simple thing. This is the kind of stuff that's going to score you some free marks on the exam. So the formula for weighted average method, we have step 1 as much as FIFO. We have step number 1, then we have step number 2. On both methods, or on all the methods, whether you're using specific identification, whether you're using FIFO, whether you're using weighted average, all our methods, they have the same step 1. Step 1 is always the same. The only difference comes on step number 2. So the difference comes on step number 2. Step number 1 is always the same. Here is the formula for step number 1, the same one we used on FIFO. Go and watch the previous video in order to understand step number 1. So it's like opening plus purchases minus returns minus units sold. It's equals to closing units. So the name of this step 1 is calculate the units of closing stock. So that's the first step. That's step number 1. Step number 1, you are calculating the units of closing stock, or the number of units of your stock at the end of the year. That's what you are calculating. So this is the formula for that. You're saying your opening stock. Remember, we're dealing with units on step number 1, not with rands. You are saying your opening stock plus your purchases minus your returns minus your units sold is equals to your closing units, the number of stock, or the number of units of closing stock. You will get them here. So let's punch our numbers and see how much do we have here. All right, on cricket balls, let's get our opening for cricket balls. Let's get our opening for cricket balls. Our opening for cricket balls. So cricket balls is this side, is this side. So this is our opening balances, the stock counts for the financial year. So this is our opening. So our opening will be like 350 units. As you can see here, we have 350 units as opening. So opening, we're going to write 350 units. You don't focus on the per unit, you don't focus on the total value. You are simply focusing on the number of units, because we want calculate the number of units of closing stock. So we're using only units for step 1. So you are taking your unit number 1, opening, which is 350. Then the same that says plus purchases. We're going to look at the number of our purchases. So let's go to purchases information, which is number C, purchases. So how many units do we have for purchases on cricket balls? We check number of units here for purchases. The number of units for purchases is 1.2, 2.1, 1.4, 1.5, all totaling to 6,200. So our purchases, we write it down, it's 6,200. Then the formula says minus returns. We have to look for returns. Do we have any returns? On this example, there is no returns, so you write 0. Then the formula says minus units sold or sales. So you are going to minus the units sold. So let's go and check. Sales is information number D. They are saying cricket balls. Remember, we're dealing with cricket balls, not pets. They're saying cricket balls of 5.7 units at 25 rand each were sold. So which means we sold 5,700 units. So we write it down. The units sold is minus 5,700. So we get our answer. Let me punch. Let's punch our calculator. So our opening, we said, is 350 plus 6,200, which is our purchases. And then we said minus 5,700. So we are getting an amount of 850. We're getting an amount of 850, if you can see my calculator here. So that is 850. You write it. So that 850, that's your units at the end of the year for step 1. So which means at the end of the year, you are having 850 cricket balls left that you did not sell. So this is your closing stock, the stock of cricket balls that you have at the end of the year. That's the one right here, 850. But key note here, guys, one important thing, they usually do give us this step 1 in most of the questions. I'm showing you for in case maybe you come across a question that does not give you this amount, or that does not give you this step 1. This is how you do it. But most of the time they give you, check quickly where they give us. They give us right here. Right here. On 28 February 2022. That's where they give us. On 28 February 2022. That's where they give us. So they are giving us on 28 February 2022 on cricket balls. Remember, our year begins on 1 March. Then it ends when? It ends on 28 February. 1 March is the beginning of the year. We had how many units on cricket balls? We had 350 on 1 March. Then now, on 28 February, we're having how many units? We're having 660 units. Check. When we calculated, we got 850. And then bona, what they gave us is 660. Now they contradict. They gave us 660. And then on our side, we're getting how much? 850. Usually, this amount has to be the same. Here, it was supposed to be 660. And here, it was supposed to be 660. If it's not 660 here and here, the amounts are not the same. Which means when we calculate using our own calculations, we are getting 850 cricket balls. And using their own calculations, they are getting 660 cricket balls. Which means the cricket balls are shorter. Which means we have missing cricket balls. So you are to get the missing, you're saying 660 minus 850. 660 minus 850. You get 190. That's the missing or stolen. That's the missing or stolen. 190. Why is it stolen? Why do we say it's missing? It's because when we calculate, we find out that we are supposed to be having 850 cricket balls. But Bona, they gave us how much? They gave us 660, which means they are short by 190. So we assume the 190 is missing or is stolen. You may come across a formula that says calculate stolen or number of units that are missing. This is the same formula. You just use the formula for step 1, then you take the step 1 minus the answer for step 1 minus the number of units that they gave you at the end of the year. Understand? To calculate missing, you take the answer for step 1 minus the number of units at the end of the year. Keep that in mind, because there will come a time when they say calculate the number of units stolen. Very simple. You take step 1, which is this formula for step 1. This is how we do it. Then you minus the number of units that they gave you at the end of the year. So we got, we have 660. Bona they got, they have 600. We got, we have 850. Then bona they got 660. We got 850. They got 660, which means 190 is short. So we assume this 190 is the missing stock. So I've just given you a formula for missing, but we're not there, guys. Here I was just trying to explain step 1. So now what do we do, because the amounts are not the same for step 1? Remember, we have to use this amount for step 1 and go with it on step 2, just like we did on FIFO. So now they are not the same. We have 660 here, we have 850. What do we do? Do we use the ones that we calculated on our own, or we use the ones that they gave us? The answer is we use the one that they gave us. We use the 660. So we assume ours already 190 is missing. So this is not the correct one. So the correct one will be how much? Will be 660. Ours is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because 190 is missing. So we use theirs, which is 660. So that's what we're going to use for step 2. Right, guys? So most of the time, they don't say, you don't even have to go to do step 1, because they most of the time give you this 660. You just take this 660 and use it on step 2. But in case they did not give you the 660, this is the formula to get it. And in case they say calculate stolen, this is still the formula for it. I hope you understand. Go and revise the video again in order to get clarity on what exactly I'm trying to say here. So now let's go to step 2 on weighted average method. Step 2, we are calculating what? Step 2, we are calculating the value. Step 2, we are calculating the value of closing stock. It's not complicated, guys. It's easy. Just keep on watching the video till you understand. No one must fail. So step 2, we calculate the value of closing stock. Remember, step 1, we're calculate the units of closing stock. Step 1, we're simply calculating the units. Then on step 2, now we're calculating what? The value. Step 1, we're calculating the units of closing stock. We found out with how many units do we have of closing stock? We have 660 units of cricket balls, which means ekupheleni kweminyaka we are left with 660 cricket balls at the end of the year. We are left with 660 cricket balls. Then step 2, we want to find out with these 660 cricket balls, what is their value? What is the value of this closing stock? And then, but we are using what? We are using weighted. We are not using FIFO. If you want to calculate the value of closing stock using FIFO, go and watch the previous video. Now we are using weighted average method. Calculate the value of closing stock of the cricket balls like 660 using the weighted average method. Weighted average is the simplest. So let me show you how weighted average goes. The formula for weighted average, it says weighted average is, remember guys, the meaning of the word weighted average, it means it has something to divide with. There's something that we must divide here. What are we dividing? We take all our stock, our total value of all the total value of the stock that we have. The total value of the stock that we have, then we divide by the number of units for that stock. So to get the total value of the stock that we have, here is the formula that we use. We say our opening stock plus opening. Remember, opening is the stock that we opened with at the beginning of the year. Then plus purchased stock plus purchases minus plus carriage if there is carriage. Sorry. By carriage, I mean the transport fee that they charge us to purchase this stock. So this transport fee, sometimes they include it on purchases. If they don't include it on purchases, we have to include it on ourselves. The carriage, the transport. So after transport, minus returns. Returns, what does returns mean? It means any stock that we purchased and then decided to return back to our supplier. So opening plus purchases plus carriage minus returns. This amount will give us the stock that we have, the value of our stock. So you take the value of your stock, divide by the units for each, which means we are going to take the value for opening, divide by the units for opening, plus the value for purchases, divide by the units for purchases, plus carriage does not have units, then minus the value for returns, minus what? The units for returns. I believe on this activity that we are doing now, there are no returns, but I will do another video maybe tomorrow where I will be doing an activity that has returns. So now this is the formula for weighted average. So let's do it in practical now. Opening plus purchases plus carriage minus returns divided by its units. So let's do it. Opening. Remember, we're dealing with cricket balls. We have to get the number of opening stock for cricket balls. So we go to stock counts. Stock counts, that's where we're going to get our opening on stock counts. Stock counts for the financial year. So for cricket balls, let's try to get our opening. The total value, remember. So the total value for cricket balls is 5,250. Total value for opening, which is 1 March 2021. We have the total value for 5,250. We don't use the per unit. We don't use the number. We use the total value. So we write it down. The total value is 5,250. Opening is 5,250. Then plus purchases. We go and check purchases. Remember, purchases is information number B. Purchases for cricket balls. We are dealing with cricket balls on this activity. Purchases for cricket balls. So remember, we have a lot of purchases. We have number of units. We don't use number of units. We don't use the per unit. We use total value. So the total value of our purchases is how much? Is 3,310. That's it. But remember, they are saying it's in pounds. It's in pounds, as you can see. It's in pounds. And we don't deal with pounds. We're dealing with rands. So we have to convert this 3,310 pounds into rands. This is how you convert. Convert into rands. Into rands. This is how you convert. You take the pounds, multiply that by the exchange rate. How much is our exchange rate? Let's check information for exchange rate. I can see it on number B right here. Number B. They are saying the carriage on purchases, exchange rate, and import taxes. So let's read. They are saying cricket balls are imported from England. Prices are shown in British pound. The exchange rate was 18 Rand 50. So we're going to use the exchange rate. It's multiplier by the exchange rate, which is how much? They are saying the exchange rate is 18 Rand 50. So to convert these euros or the pounds, to convert these pounds into rands, we take these pounds multiplied by exchange rate. How much is this? It's 3,310 pounds. 3,310 pounds multiplied by the South African exchange rate. Then we're going to get the amount of this total value of purchases in rands. So let's punch it on our calculator. It's going to be 3,310 times 18 Rand 50. So we're getting a total of 61,235. 61,235. So we write it down, 61,235, which means this 3,310 euros in rands, it's equals to 61,285. So now we know what's the total value of our purchases in rands is how much? 61,235. So we go and include it. The total value for our purchases in rands, we converted this into rands. Then we got 61,235. That's our purchases. Then we say the formula continues for weighted and say plus carriage. So we have to get our carriage on purchases. Carriage. Do we have any information about carriage? When you check number B here, they are saying carriage on purchases, exchange rate, and import. Let's read what they are saying about carriage. The balls are imported from England, which means we got them from England. Prices are shown in British pounds. The exchange rate was 17 Rand. Okay, then import taxes totaled to 12,115. They charged us taxes. So guys, when they charge us taxes, it's much like we treat it as much like our carriage or import duties. So import when we purchase goods from overseas, they charge us taxes. Those taxes you also add them here, ne? don't forget, you treat them like your carriage. Those taxes, you add them. So they say they charge us taxes of 12,115. So that tax, you add it, it's much like carriage, 12,115. They charge us that tax. So how about carriage? We haven't found carriage yet. They are saying the delivery are paid for by the manufacturer. What does that mean? This means to deliver these goods to our business, we did not pay any carriage. The carriage was paid by the manufacturer. That's what they are saying. So we will have no carriage on this activity. Carriage will be zero because it's not paid by us, it's paid by the manufacturer. So carriage will be zero. Returns, I said there are no returns, so returns will also be zero. So we are done. Opening plus the purchases. Remember, purchases, we converted these 3,310 euros into rands using this exchange rate. 3,310 euros times 18 rand 50. Then this opening, we got it from here. That's the total value of our opening on 1 March 2021. The opening is 5,250. Hence, we wrote it here. Then we added the taxes that they charged us, which is 12,115. So here is our taxes. So that's the formula. Then it says now divide by units. So we have to divide by each unit here. We have to divide by each unit. We divide by the unit for opening, the unit for purchases, and so on. So let's go and check the units for opening. So remember, opening is 1 March 2021 for cricket balls. The units for opening is how much? You don't take the per units. You take the number of units. So the units for opening is 350. If you can check here, you don't take the per unit. You don't take the total value. You take the number of units, which is 350. So opening, we have 350 units plus purchases. How many units do we have for purchases? We go to our purchases information, which is number C, purchases during the year. How much do we have for purchases? We have the total value, this one, we don't take it. We have the per unit here, we don't take the per unit. We take the number of units. Hence, the formula says we divide by units. So the number of units for purchases is 6,200. That's the total, 6,200. So we write it down. The number of units for purchases is 6,200. Then the next thing that followed here on our formula is what? The next thing that followed here on our formula is the taxes. Remember, taxes has no units, so it's 0. Carriage has no units, it's 0. And then we say there's returns, we had no returns. So that's it. You continue, is equals to. Then you punch your calculator. Opening, you write the amounts at the top, divide by the amounts at the bottom, which means you write the total rand value, divide by the units. So let's get the totals. The first amount is 5,250 for opening. So you punch it, 5,250 plus purchases, which is 61,235. So it's plus 61,235. Then the next amount is plus taxes of 12,115. So plus taxes of 12,115. So there is no other thing here. Then it's equals to, we get an amount of 78,600, which means there's these values at the top, they are equals to 78,600. The values at the top, they are equals to 78,600. Divide by the values at the bottom, or the number of units at the bottom. The first number here, we have 350 plus 6.2, then there is nothing there. So we're going to say 350 plus 6,200. we get number of units of 6,550. 350 plus 6,200 is 6,550. So we write it down, 6,550. You continue with your calculation for step 2 of weighted average. So the first amount is 78,600 divided by 6,550. 78,500. Oh, it's 78,600. Sorry, it's 78,600. That's the total value of our goods when we take the opening plus the purchases plus the taxes, which means our goods costed us 78,600. Then we divide by the total number of units for these goods. How many are those goods? We found out those goods, they are 6,550. So we take the total value, divide by the number of goods, which is 6,550. So we get 12 rand. 12 rand. This 12 rand is called the weighted average. Sorry, is weighted average per unit. Weighted average per unit. That is the weighted average per unit. You are not done. Once you get this weighted average per unit, it simply means this is your unit price, which means on average, all your goods on average, they are worth, each is worth 12 rand, which means one good on average, one cricket ball on average is worth 12 rand. Each cricket ball is worth 12 rand. So remember, what do we want? We want the value of closing stock, or the closing units that we got. Calculate the number of closing units. We found out we have 660 closing units. Then we take this 660, we go down with it on step 2. We have 660 cricket balls that we know we have at the end of the year. We want to get their price or their value. Then when we calculate the weighted average, we find out what each cricket ball costs 12 rand. One cricket ball costs 12 rand on average. How about this 660? How about this 660? How about this 660, which is the cricket balls on 28 February? These cricket balls at the end of the year, how much do they cost us if one cricket ball cost us 12 rand? So you're going to say 660 balls multiplied by 12 rand, so that you will get, because these 660 balls, how much do they cost you? Then that will be your answer for weighted average. So we are going to say 660 multiplied by 12. 660 balls times 12 rand each, which means all of them, they cost you 7,920. So all of them, they will be costing you 7,920. That's it, guys. Now you have finally find out your value of your closing stock. How much was your closing stock? Your closing stock was 660 units. 660 units, it was 660 units. So its value now, if each unit is 12 rand, which means all these 660, the total value will be how much? 7,920. That's weighted average for you guys. We are done. No questions, I believe. If there is any questions, you will be asking them on the comments. Now I'll just be writing on our answer book for procedure's sake. On our answer book, just transferring. Remember, on your answer book, you don't write step 1. You don't write step 1. You only write step 2. Here is step 1 here, where we got the 660. Then this 660 is the one that we used to multiply here. It's the one that we used to multiply here. So we don't use step 1, we use step 2 on your answer book so that you can save space. So let's just focus on step 2. So step 2, we said we used this formula. So I'm going to write it here to show you how you write it on your exam. So on your exam, you're going to say opening, which is 5,250. This 5,250 plus purchases, which is 61,235. If you don't know how we got it, go and revise the video, you will see. So it's plus 61,235. 61,235. Then plus 12,115 plus 12,115. Then there is nothing else. Then divide by the units for each. Opening, the units for opening was 350. If you don't know how we got it, go and revise the video. Plus purchases, the units for purchases was 6,200 plus 6,200 plus, remember I said for this tax there is no carriage, there is no units. For carriage there is no units, so it's 0. Then we calculated, we got how much when we add 5,250 plus 61,235 plus 12,115, we got an amount of 78,600. So we write it down. 78,600 divide by the ones at the bottom. 350 plus 6.2. 350 plus 6.2. We got 6,550. 6,550. Then when you take this 78,600 divide by 6,550, we got the weighted average per unit of how much? Of 12 rand. So the weighted average is 12 rand. Then you take this, multiply by the answer that you got on step 1, which is 660 units. So you multiply by 660, then you will get an amount of 7,920, which is 7,920. Then you will be getting your 8 marks. That's it, guys. That's how you do it here. That's how you do it here. Nothing difficult. For real, nothing difficult. So if there is any question, don't forget to ask on the comments. I believe this is the simplest chapter and everyone will get this. If things are difficult for you on paper 1, this is where you are supposed to score the marks. Make sure you repeat this video. You go and download this paper on stanmorephysics.com. Download this paper. Make sure you understand this chapter, because this is the kind of chapter that's supposed to give you 3 marks. Just check how many marks does it have. Check. It's 40 marks. You see what you can pass just by this chapter. I did teach you FIFO on the previous video. Now I'm teaching you weighted. Then I'm going to do the next video and calculate the following: cost of sales, gross profit, markup, and stock holding period. That's it, guys. No one will fail accounting while we still have this channel here. Learning is made simple. Those who want to fail, they will fail. Just get VodaPay app, buy 1 gig data for 1 rand, and download these videos in high quality. Watch on your free time. Learn. There is no way you say it's difficult. Just learn and keep on practicing more papers, because the trick in passing accounting is practicing more papers. Without that, nothing will happen. We can teach and teach and teach, but nothing will happen if you don't practice papers. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and you share with your other peers, and you also like them, so that our videos can reach a lot of South Africans and help a lot of our matriculants. Thanks a lot. I will try and do another video tomorrow where I finish this paper, because we have a lot of papers to do. The aim here is I want to do a lot of question papers, repeat a lot of question papers on inventory valuation for the coming 2 weeks, so that you can see what we are doing almost the same thing. If you will be watching all these videos, you will get used to it's one and the same thing that we are doing, and you will pass no matter what it takes. Thanks. Bye, guys.